I would like to explain the process that I did today with layering the plastic. And I started by using a plastic bag. It was just a Ziploc bag that was left over from a project. I started that as my foundation, and I first painted the surface just with watered down paint. Um, and then I dried that, and then I collaged different kinds of things in on the bag. What I'm trying to do, what I'm making is actually a sandwich, and this is a sandwich of about, I'd say about 5 or 6 layers of things to create a sandwich. And what I did is, after I collaged the material onto the surface bag, which was the first bag, I then put another plastic bag over that using the iron. I heated the iron and sandwiched it by ironing the plastic onto the plastic, which sealed the collage material inside. I used fibers, and I used just really layering. I just layered different kinds of fabric and fibers and all kinds of stuff. After I did that, I then I have 2 plastics. One is the plastic that's from the plastic bag, and the other one is the plastic that is Saran wrap. Saran wrap is a finer plastic, so it melts a little bit different. So I layered the Saran wrap in between the sandwich as well to create kind of a webbed look. So therefore I painted the Saran wrap. When you paint the Saran wrap, you can make these wonderful nuances of color on the Saran wrap. And then I used metallic paint and just iridescent paint, metallic paint, all kinds of stuff. Basically, it was all watered down paint, though. And sometimes I used, I just kind of stained the plastic. I just, stained it with the paint. And then after that, the sandwich gets harder and harder with each layer. The next layer, I took more collage material, and I actually used the paint slivers that's left over from painting. I usually keep a bag of leftover paint slivers that I use in between my sandwich. So I used that, and of course the paint actually melted, and you can see there's little areas of paint that's literally melted into the plastic. I did that, and then I put plastic over that to create another sandwich. Then I painted that. Then I think I stamped, using a stamp, I just stamped into the surface, and I used thick paint and a stamp, and I did that. I stamped the surface. And then after I did that, a friend of mine actually was here, and she was also experimenting, and she had this tool that was similar to a stencil cutter, wood burning tool, something that she uses for her fiber art. So I experimented with that, and did some really cool cuttings. If you can see the flower cutting that I did in the plastic, so it actually cuts through the plastic and creates these wonderful designs. And I played with that, and I experimented with that. And then I discovered, after she left, I discovered that I have a stencil tool and a wood burning tool that works just as well to do the same kind of thing. So I'm not going to purchase the tool, actually. I don't need to. Then after that, my friend also gave me some art foil, and I played around with the art foil. And what I used is little slivers of the art foil that had just a little bit of art foil on the back, and I ironed the art foil over the surface and peeled the foil off, and I have left over copper, little pieces of copper, which I think is very, very cool. Now, what I'm planning to do with this, even though it's a wonderful piece to itself, really, I can just see that this could be a really wonderful wall hanging. It's going to be hard to cut it up. But the original reason why I have created these surfaces, oh, I forgot to tell you that I actually did put, and you can see, I actually put painted and torn dryer sheet. Dryer sheet's wonderful. You can actually use a dryer sheet as a piece, as a whole piece, but you can also tear it, and it creates these wonderful fiber-like effects. I also used, I can see also there's some metallic thread in here, so I actually just sprinkled thread in the collage material that I used. So you can just really do your sandwich the way you want to do your sandwich, because it's just really experimenting, layering, and playing. So really, this is a wonderful thing to do with just a plastic bag, and you can see that it starts with plastic. Now what I'm going to do is probably cut this into shapes, and I'm making these really, what I'm doing is I'm really making this for my jewelry shards, which I'm going to do, but also my the surfaces that I want to create my earrings from. So I will come back and show you what I'm doing with this surface, this material that I'm creating. But I wanted to show you also another thing that I'm working on. I took the Zix machine and I used various different things to create some interesting texture. And this is actually, it's hard to see, but this is actually done with one of the texture plates. And I put this plastic right through the texture plate, and it made this really interesting design. So this was really neat, because I actually think this would be cool to use for jewelry, for my earrings. And I have already cut 2 jewelry or earring pieces, at least to start with. I'm going to make these my base and probably bead them, and I might also use some of these as for shards. Now, I think what I'm also going to do is put a resin or diamond glaze over the surface so that it becomes harder than the fabric, and I will create kind of a glass-like effect. So that's what I'm going to do with that. And then I also experimented with some plastic, and I'm making some shards for my necklaces. I used something I picked up at Michael's, which is really cool. I actually have this Martha Stewart very fine glitter, and I have discovered that this makes this wonderful iridescent surface a little bit different than the art foil, but has a really interesting effect on different kinds of surfaces. So I'm using this. I actually put some of the copper, the fine glitter on the copper, and I melted it right into the plastic. And what I also did is I collaged onto the plastic too. So what I did is I collaged onto the plastic, and then I put some of the iridescent fine glitter on it as well. And then I'm also experimenting with